So we are finally going over the video you guys have been asking for, and this has been by quite a few of you. We are now going over the budget M1A build so you guys can use it and enjoy this weapon. Well, because it's one of my favorite weapons in the game, and I think once you guys actually start using it, you're gonna like it as well. Let's talk about it. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the X-Field Hideout. My name is Ghost. If you guys have never been here before, I'm super excited you guys are here. This is a channel where we put out a lot of Tarkov content. So if you guys end up liking the video today, feel free to subscribe to the channel so you guys can see more content like it. We've been putting out 3 to 5 videos, and by we, I mean me. I've been putting out 3 to 5 videos a week, so I think that it will be worth it. Before we get into the video, I do stream on Twitch Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. PST. I would love to see you guys by the stream. We usually have a ton of fun, but I do want to get straight into the guide. Usually what I'll do is I will preface every guide with something about the gun so you guys have a little bit of understanding on the weapon. Now, I do put timestamps in all my videos because I know that sometimes people just want to get straight to the build, which is completely fine, but I also want to put in the other stuff because my whole thing about helping people build weapons is I want you to know why you're building the weapon so that you guys can build your own weapons and we can see a bunch of custom builds based on what you guys want to accomplish. And that is something that we need to think about when we're building guns in Tarkov. Is there are so many different things that you might want to pursue, whether you're questing, whether you are going for PvP action, whether you are going to be only dealing with scavs, if you're going to be like ratting around the map. And I don't say that in a negative way, that's kind of just what it is, right? If we're going from stash to stash, if you're doing like a stash run, what are you trying to do in the map? And you have to think about that because it's going to help you build a weapon that is going to be more beneficial for that run. So if I'm going to be sniping, I don't really need to worry about having a full auto HK. I'm going to run something else, or I'm going to customize that weapon to have higher ergo versus lower vertical recoil. If I feel like, you know what I'm saying? And so that's going to help not just with your weapon, but with your armor choices. And it's also going to help you just to know what to bring for your kit in general. So with this build, there isn't a ton that we were able to do with the M1A because it's the budget version. Now, I am going to be putting out a high-end build. So for those of you who have max level traders and don't care about really money, but you want a very nice M1A, we're going to be going over that build as well, because let's face it, once you get to a certain point in Tarkov and you have so much money, it really doesn't matter how much you spend on a weapon as long as you like that weapon. So we'll do that after. This build is going to be utilizing no max level trading, so all of your traders will be level 3 and under, which works better for budget builds because most of the time people are trying to do budget builds when they are earlier in the game or they don't have that much money at that time. So with this, we're not able to manipulate the ergo and vertical recoil that drastically, and that's due to the fact that we're able to put less attachments on this build. But it's okay because it's still an amazing build, and in all honesty, I would definitely run this for quests. I would definitely run this as a regular build without going all out and spending like 150 more thousand rubles, because this is a great build. So without further ado, let's get into the build. So here we are on the build screen. We're going to be building a spring-filled armory M1A. It's the 7.62 by 51 rifle. So this is a hefty rifle. Now, it is only semi-automatic, so if you don't like semi-automatic guns, if you never used the M14 in Call of Duty or Battlefield, you might not like this version. This is basically a civilian version of the M14, and when you use the EBR chassis, you will definitely see like a resemblance of that build. I really like semi-automatic weapons. It does force you to be more accurate and land your shots. This one is a little bit more forgiving because it's a 7.62 rifle and it's just a nice heavy round in general. It's going to be very hard not to wreck somebody with this round, even with the lower tier ammo. So when we get this, we can either go to Peacekeeper and we can purchase it for 727 USD. I want to say Peacekeeper 3, maybe. Let's look real quick. Level 3. It is level 3. So level 3, we can get it for 727 USD. This is very expensive. I wouldn't recommend, if you are going for the budget option, to purchase it this way. And 727 ends up being about 90,000 rubles if you convert it over. So it's really pricey. What I would do is I would actually go for the barter, which you also do at Peacekeeper. I would do the barter, which you do at Peacekeeper, and it's going to be for 10 USB adapters. Now, USB adapters are found everywhere. I'm kind of confused though. Let me know down in the comments if you guys recognize this. This used to be a barter for 8 USB adapters. Let me know if that's accurate, because I'm pretty sure it's been 8. And honestly, as soon as I seen that it was 10, I was like, when did they even change it? I didn't even notice when they changed it because I haven't been doing this barter that often, but the times before I thought it was 8. So let me know down in the comments if you guys remember it being 8. It's 10, which is not a big deal. You can get USB adapters for as low as like 3,000 rubles, which makes this as low as 30,000 rubles if you get it with the barter. And then if we were to buy it from flea market, let's see how much it is. 48. So no matter what, the gun is going to be cheaper with a barter being your first option and your second option being flea market. So don't buy it from Peacekeeper. It ends up being 90,000 rubles, and you guys are going to be in the comments like, this is not a budget friendly weapon. I spent 200,000 rubles on this gun. So those are the two things. USBs you can find literally everywhere, guys. I'm pretty sure you see them and just don't pick them up. Now in your head, just think like, hey, a couple scav runs, a couple regular runs, loot for the items you don't usually loot in file cabinets and bags. And when you get those USBs, just put them in your scav case and wait until you get 10 and you can get one of these. Now you can only get one per cycle. So, but it's still a really good deal. So anyways, we're going to have the weapon. And the very first thing we're going to do when we open this thing is we are going to be going for, I want to say a high ergo build, even though it's not, just because, like I said, we can't really manipulate the stats too much on the budget build because we're going with the regular body that we receive. But something to help a little bit is we are going to be purchasing for the first item the 22-inch barrel, and we're going to be getting the 22-inch barrel for 26,169 rubles from mechanic level 3. It's going to give us the -9% vertical recoil and -5 ergo. Now, even though we are getting less ergo, this is overall a better barrel, especially if we're going to be using it for long-range engagements. Now, if you guys wanted something a little bit snappier and you're going to be using this close range with the red dot, I would recommend probably keeping the 16 on it, and then you don't have to spend extra money. I will also say that when you get the 16-inch barrel, sell it back to vendor, and it ends up being about 10,000 rubles. So technically this ends up being about 16,000 rubles. So just keep that in mind. Once you vendor back the part, you're gonna get money back. So it's not as expensive. So that's the first thing we're gonna do. The second thing we're gonna be going over is the mount for our sight. So the mount for our sight, we are gonna be going with the ARMS 18 mount instead of the other one for multiple reasons. Number one, the ARMS 18 mount can fit everything you need to fit on it. It ends up being 3,443 rubles from mechanic level 2 with -1 ergos. Now I got this other one because I want you guys to see that the M14 UTG mount, which is your other option, is going to be -4 on the ergo, which is terrible in comparison to -1. It's also about 10,000 rubles, so it's 3 times the price. The ergo is 4 times as bad, and it does the same thing. So just don't go that route. Just get this one. The next thing we're going to be doing is going to be for the compensator or muzzle brake, and that is going to be the Thunder Beast 30CB. Now, on this build, I'm running it suppressed because I'm thinking of solo players. I'm thinking of, most of my guns I run suppressed anyway, but I'm thinking if you're playing solo, if you're using it for any type of sniping, suppressed is always going to be better, even if the stats end up being a tiny bit lower. And the reason for that is, first and foremost, it is a lot harder to tell where you are being shot from when you are being shot from a suppressed weapon. Many times you don't even hear a suppressed weapon if they are 100, I mean, even sometimes like 75 plus meters away. You have no idea where they're coming from because you don't even hear the shot at all. Then if they are closer, you hear the shot, but you don't see exactly where that shot's coming from. Now, that is also going to depend on if you are using what ammo you're using. We're going to be going over the ammo after, so I will explain the differences and why you want to use one or the other. So we'll go over that. But we're going to be running the Thunder Beast, which is going to give us the -7% recoil. It's going to not mess with our ergo, which is also super dope. That's going to be 66 USD from Peacekeeper 3, which is very cheap for what you get. Now, if you didn't want to run the suppressor on top of this, you can just run this muzzle brake as is, and it would be a great option for the price. But we are going to actually run the Thunder Beast Ultra 5 sound suppressor on this to get that suppressed action. The Thunder Beast suppressor is going to be 19,960 rubles from the flea market, and we're going to be getting that -2% recoil and -7 ergo. So like I said, it's not amazing for the ergo, so we do get the -7 recoil, so it's good for the recoil, not amazing for the ergo, but in my opinion, it's better to be silent. The next thing we are going to be going over is what sight you should be running. So in this build, I'm going to be showing you guys multiple sights and multiple ways you can run them. I'm going to show you what they look like. It's completely up to you, whatever you choose to do, but we have a ton of options for this build to satisfy pretty much any type of gameplay that you guys are going to be going for. For the price and for the versatility, I would run exactly how I have it. Now, like I said, it's going to be up to you, and it's going to be completely subjective. In all of my builds, sight is one of the most subjective things you can have for the build. Some people like sights that I absolutely hate, and sometimes I recommend a sight that people are like, oh, I can't stand that sight. So with that being said, whatever you want to run, and I'm sure it'll be better for you if that's what you prefer. We are going to be running on this build the Sig Bravo 4, and that is going to give us an amazing field of view. I'm telling you, if you guys haven't used this yet, you got to try it. I know some people say, well, that's really expensive. Why would you put that on a budget build? But when I begin to show you the other options, and when we start pairing things together for completeness in how you would run it, it ends up being about the same price, slightly more expensive, but it ends up being about the same price. So we're going to do the Sig Bravo 4 for 32,300 rubles from flea market. You guys know how the flea market works. Sometimes I can get it for 30,000. Sometimes it ends up being closer to 40. So just check that. It's going to give us that -2 ergo, and it allows us to put a red dot reflex, whatever you want to put on top, which is super dope. It does limit it a little bit. You can run the PKO6. You can run multiple of these types of reflexes. So keep that in mind. Also, the PKO6 is like 60 to 70,000 rubles right now. It's insane. If you prefer it and want to still run it, or you have some, feel free to do that. I like the RMR. That's been my go-to reflex. So we're going to be doing that on the low profile mount. The low profile mount is 15 USD from Peacekeeper 2, giving us that -1 ergo. And then we're going to be running the Trigicon RMR, which is not going to mess with our ergo, and it's going to be about 201 USD from Peacekeeper 2. Now that pretty much completes this official build, but I want to give you guys some other options, so let's go over those real quick. So with the Trigicon is what we have right here. The other option you could run, let's say you don't have Peacekeeper 2 unlocked and you're like early. If you want Peacekeeper 1 for a little bit cheaper and a similar sight setup, you can go with the Burris Fastfire Weaver base, and then on top of that, we would put the Burris Fastfire 3 reflex sight. So you can get the Weaver base. We can get that for $15, so it's exactly the same from Peacekeeper 1 USD, and then you're going to get the Fastfire Reflex for 150 USD from Peacekeeper 1. So it's about 51 USD cheaper, and it's a very similar sight. It's still good in my opinion. If you like the RMR, you're going to like this one. And it's a little bit of a cheaper option for your guys' budget builds, and we can run that on top. So the other option I wanted to give you guys is going to be running the 25 rings by UTG, and you can get those for 1,683 rubles from Jaeger 1, giving us -2 ergo. And then on top of that, running the VOMZ P-Lod, which is going to be very similar, and I will show you guys in raid so that you guys can really see. Usually we go to the hideout, but it's better in raid. And then that's going to give us -4 on the ergonomics, but you're going to be able to get it for 14,758 rubles. The other piece that we're going to be going over is the NC Star MPR 45, and this is going to be so we can run a canted sight if you wanted to. So if you're not running something like the Bravo where you can put the sight on top, you would run the MPR so that you could run that canted on the side of your weapon, so you can turn. If somebody is trying to engage you closer, you can handle that. And that is going to be -1 on the ergo. Now that all the parts are done, let's go over the things you can do. So first of all, we can run it like this as is for this build. So one of the things we can do is we can just yank off this Bravo, and we can put in the P-Lad on top, and then we're gonna run the canted on the front portion of the Springfield, and then we're gonna run that on the canted. I'm gonna show you how this looks. It does look kind of funky in Raid. It works, but it does look kind of funky. So if you guys want things that look really clean and crisp, you're probably not gonna wanna run this. And I'm gonna show you another reason why you might not want to run it. And that is going to be just because the PLAD is kind of large. So it's gonna block a good amount of your vision. So, but that is an option. You could also choose just not to run this canted sight on here and just run the PLAD, and then you can run a 5.7 as your secondary. So if somebody is trying to engage you in that close quarter combat, you can handle them with something like a 5.7. You could even run a secondary weapon. Now, all of that is more expensive, but I'm just saying you could do that if you would choose to. And then if you wanted to run this close quarters, you could actually just yank off the PLAD, and we can put on, let's just say this, and we can put this on, we would move this to the back right here, and you can run it this way. So one thing that I'm going to say right now is please do not run this on the front. Purchase this for the, whatever it is, what is it, 3,000 rubles? 3,000 rubles. Purchase this back rail. Do not put a sight on the front rail. It's not as good. If you have to save money, that shouldn't be where you're saving money on this build. It's not going to be that much more effective for you. So yeah, anyways, just buy this and put it here, and you can run it this way. So before we go into Raid and look at some of these setups, and you can really see what you like, let's go ahead and look at some ammo real quick and talk about those. So these are the ammunitions we're going to be using for the 7.62 by 51 rifle. If you are sniping, there is only really 3 rounds I would recommend, honestly, for anybody, whether you're using a FAL, whether you're using what we're using right now, and that is M80, M62, or M61. M61 is by far one of the best rounds in the game, if not the best round in the game. We also have 993, which is complete overkill, but M80 can do a lot of damage if that is what you can afford and that is what you want to get at Peacekeeper level 2. It's doing 80 flesh and 41 pen, which means that with that amount of flesh, you can hit people without armor and completely wreck them. It also means that you're not going to have a ton of trouble with level 5 armor after a few hits, but you are going to have trouble if somebody is like wearing a slick or something. But the main thing at the end of the day is you are trying to hit them in the face, which means this round is going to have no trouble at all going through visors. It's not going to have trouble killing people with only flesh damage. I usually run for sniping the M62, and that is because if my snipe is off, it is a tracer round, which means I can adjust my shot and then go for it again and hopefully hit the shot if I don't the first time. If I'm sniping with M80 or M61, it's hard because if you miss that first shot, you really have to know like where you missed it. Did it go too low? Did it go too high? And so then you have to adjust accordingly. For the everyday round, maybe M80 would work better for you guys, or even mixing M62 and M80. The only thing about M62 that's a problem is it is a tracer round. So if you miss your shot or you're shooting and engaging somebody in front of you and somebody from the right sees the engagement, they can see exactly where you're shooting from for the most part because of that tracer round, right? You can literally see it going right to left or left to right. I actually do find people quite often when they're using BT rounds, M62 rounds, or any other type of tracer round. And so just keep that in mind, but it's going to give you almost the same flesh at 79 flesh, and it's going to be 54 pen. It's an amazing round. You are basically going to wreck every armor in the game using this round, so you'll have no issues. M61, like I said, we're looking at 70 flesh, so you do dramatically jump from 10 for the flesh, but it's 68 pen, which means it gets through every single thing in the game. So a lot of times I'll see people run this for sniping if you're trying to get shooter, so that you're going to get through every single helmet in the very first shot. You're going to get through every single armor in the very first shot, so whether you thorax or head, that's how that's going to work. It's going to be up to you guys what you guys choose, but those are the ammos that I would recommend. Okay, so as we're getting set up to go into Raid, I was also thinking about the other suppressors that I set up if you guys wanted to use them. If you guys want to spend a little bit more money, you guys can run the AAC Blackout, Flash Hider, and Suppressor. You have to put the Flash Hider on first to run the SDN6. And then we also have the KAC QDC Flash Suppressor, and then you can put the PRS QDC on top of that. Now, these are both about double, and one is almost triple the price of the suppressor that I chose for you guys, the Thunder Beast. So that is completely up to you if you guys want to run a nicer suppressor. But for the budget build, we're going to stick with the Thunder Beast. Now let's get into raid and check this thing out. Okay, so here we are with the original setup, which is the Bravo 4. This is how this site looks. I think it looks pretty nice. So if someone's coming in, here you are, ready to go. And then all you do is you're going to quickly switch, and this is the Bravo. Look at this nice field of view. This is one of my favorite things about the site, is the field of view is just amazing on this site. Now, when I show you the other one is not terrible, but just keep this picture in your mind, and they're exactly the same length, right? It's still a 4 times. I think a lot of people think that it's only like a 2 times or a 2.5, but it's still a 4. You could see fairly far. Now, obviously, if you're gonna like snipe, you can go with something like the Voodoo instead. But for the price, for the build, I think this is an amazing site. So have it like this, switch, and we can, you know, move accordingly. So let's go ahead and pull this off. We're going to pull this in like this. We're going to move the Bravo. We are going to put on the PLAD, and then I'm gonna even show you the canted as well. So this is the other way you can run it. Obviously, you can run the PLAD by itself, and then this is what you would get. So as you can see, it's a little bit more blurry with sway on the field of view, but we're still looking at the same thing. It's a very simple looking scope, which I really like. Just reminds me of like a classic sniper rifle in general. And so, yeah, this is how it's gonna look. Still looks good, does have the sway, and you can run this by itself. And then if we wanted to run the canted, this is what it's going to look like. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. Can you still get kills with it? Yes, you can still see the red dot, and honestly, you can see in front of you when somebody's directly in front of you. But look at this left side on how much the scope takes up. The PLAD is just very large looking when you're ADSing, trying to see the sight in front of it. So even though you can use this, it's not something that I would recommend, only because of that. Now, I have seen other people recommend this, even just in general talking like, oh, just run a canted. But this is like the problem. So if I'm looking down the hall, I can't even see if somebody's going to be peeking this left door because it's completely covered up. And you can't see the full FOV of the reflex, so it's just not ideal. Now, if we wanted to run the PLAD off and move the reflex onto, actually, how would we do this? We would go like this, and then we'll move the MPR completely off so it's not in the way at all. This is with just the reflex, which isn't bad either. You can actually get some decent looking kills at range even with this. Now, obviously, it's really hard to see in these windows, but you can still possibly get a kill with it. And then especially for anything that's going to be in closer engagement, it's going to be fine. And then let's go ahead and look at this in general. So obviously, this is allowing it to reset and shooting. But if you were to fire faster, it would be a little bit different. It's also going to fire a little bit different because we have a drum right now. But so you have the initial shots, and this is not using recoil control. This is just me shooting. You have the initial shots, and then you have a very tight spread, even when it looks like it's hitting higher and lower, because you're not allowing it to fully reset the reflex. It's not. It's still giving you that very tight spread. So once you land, you're going to continue to land after that, after a couple of stray shots are missed. This is the M1A budget build, and I hope you guys like it. That is a complete build, guys. That is going to put us at 27 ergo, 121 vertical recoil for the M1A budget build, and it's going to run us 95,250 rubles and 282 USD. If you were to convert that, it ends up being about 128,000 rubles. I'm rough estimating, but it's about that in total rubles, which I still think is an amazing deal for what you're getting for this weapon. The versatility is what you're paying for, the little extra. Like I said, I showed you guys how to shave off money if you guys want it to be cheaper, but I really think you're going to love this build. If you guys do end up loving this build, let me know down in the comments. I'm going to be reading and responding to every single comment because I love talking about these builds. If you guys feel like you think there's a better way to run this build, let me know down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what site you would prefer, what suppressor you would prefer, if you would rather run it non-suppressed, and what reason you have. Let's talk about it down in the comments. I really appreciate you guys being here for another build. If you guys like the video, make sure you smash that like button. It goes a long way for the channel, and you guys have shown a tremendous amount of support, which I truly appreciate. If you guys want to see more content like this, I post 3 to 5 videos a week on Tarkov content. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and you can always hit the bell if you never want to miss an upload. Hope to see you guys by the stream at twitch.tv/xvlnghost Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. PST. I think it'll be better with you there. So just come by, come chill after work or something. So yeah, I'll see you soon. I hope you guys are very blessed. I hope you have an amazing day or night, depending on where you're at in the world. I hope that you are able to build this gun and get the most amount of kills. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. Right here. I got him. I knew I heard someone. You're good. I jumped over you to kill him.